Hi, everyone. We are at our sixth episode of our podcast called Tsu-calm-i. And today's title is How to Grow Our Wisdom.
Yeah, and I'm going to first of all read a little excerpt from The Avatar Path by Harry Palmer. Living deliberately requires courage, wisdom, and ambition. At the core of courage is the ability to perceive what is, as it is, while staying present and aware. You do not run away and hide. At the core of wisdom is the ability to predict the long-term consequences of actions and the human reactions they will cause. At the core of ambition is vigorous, focused effort. Increase these qualities, keep them in balance, and you will recover your power to create and shape realities.
Wow. So, why did we choose this topic? Because in the previous two episodes, we actually discussed already courage and ambition. And today, what we have left is wisdom. And Donna, you read something about a rescue in the Amazonas forest. So please, tell me about that, because it sounded very interesting, and we wanted to open this topic with that story.
It is basically it's sad, but also it's an amazing story. There's some indigenous people that live off the land, and there was a mother and two pilots and her 4 children on the plane flying over the Amazon forest, and it crashed. Unfortunately, the mum and the 2 pilots died and left the 4 children in the middle of the Amazon rainforest. And basically they survived, and they were found 40 days after the crash, and they were found 2.5 miles away from the crash. What is just amazing is about the wisdom and the courage and the perseverance of all 4 of the young children, especially the older one. But what I found also was really inspiring is that the rescuers that helped to find them after the 40 days, the way they did it was they had like the military come in using all the up-to-date technology, but also the indigenous tribe used old ancient methods, and they taught the military. So they used the old and the new together. And they found them the next day once they'd aligned everything, and it was a dog they as well that actually tracked them down. So the whole it's quite
I also read about that part of the indigenous people, that they had dreams about the children actually. They also used some drugs like that plant ayahuasca. And so they had these visions, dreams, predictions, and this is like the core of wisdom,
and
to be able to predict.
When you look at old quotes like from Socrates or they all resonate, and that was thousands of years ago. So all these old methods and sayings, it runs along in our wisdom. And the combination, now we've evolved as a species.
So it's like good to learn from ancient people, basically. Wisdom from their wisdom. I mean, when it comes to wisdom, I also think about old people. I mean, like life experience, and especially it's valuable when someone is able to reflect. I think the ability to reflect, also whether you're young or old, I think it's equally important.
Well, I mean, I know if I want to find out how to do something and it's anything technical, I go to the younger generation because they're more familiar and they know, whereas I never had a mobile phone till I was 23.
But like wisdom. I'm morally thinking about my parents as a child of them. Wisdom. They share their wisdom with me. So maybe sometimes their wisdom is like over worry and like overprotecting, but sometimes it's real wisdom because they already experienced
Yeah,
something and they telling me. So wisdom is actually when we learn from others' faults. They already done it, but we don't do it again because we learn, and that's how we are getting wiser.
yeah. And how many, and I know my mum might have said, don't do that. And guess what? I'm a teenager. I'm going to be rebellious. I need to try it out because I've not experienced it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, sometimes we have to learn it for ourselves. But do you have an example about that, like when you learn the wisdom, and when you took it to your heart, and
not off the top of my head. No, I can't think of
yeah, me
anything.
neither. Because you know what?
But
It's really hard to hear them. For me too. Yeah, I admit. It's really hard to hear them, but when it comes to wisdom, this typical feeling of my parents telling me something like, you know, also about relationships, like who to trust, who to not trust. And they have kind of this intuitive feeling after a while, or you have, or we have this intuitive feeling after a while when we had some experience. Like, I think when we start to lose our naivety,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and to really, yeah, I think wisdom is also about creating boundaries and in our relationships, like what is okay for me, what is not okay for me, what we already talked about in
Yeah.
previous episodes.
I tell you what, I've just thought of something. I've just remembered when I was at school, it was like study time, and it was like you need to do your homework. You need to study so you can get your qualifications. And I wasn't particularly wise in that point because I'll be like, yeah, I'm doing it. And then leave home and go out and meet my friends and then come back and then, yeah, I've done it, which isn't, I thought it was quite wise at the time. And I did.
You wisely, made an excuse.
Wisely made an excuse, what I thought at the time was probably quite clever, but actually
Clever. Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah. The
wasn't.
clever is the proper one. Yeah.
But I learned from experience because I failed my exams, and then
Oh,
at a later date, I decided actually I can probably do some more learning.
I'm probably learning wisdom these days. I just recognize that because you know what I started to do to slow down a little bit and purposefully relax. Because as I told to one of my friends, actually this morning, I said to her, you know what? I think I was able to relax before, but it was accidentally. Like I accidentally relaxed sometimes. And when I'm purposefully relaxing, that means for me, and this is when it comes to wisdom, that I stop for a while and I observe. I
Yeah.
start to observe. And then I start to see things, start to see connections. I think it's also a nice thing to observe people, like where could they probably coming from? Where could it probably go? Or sometimes our train of thoughts. Where could that probably started, or where is it going to?
Yeah, I think it is being wise what you see on social media as well. I think that has a massive impact on the youngsters and middle-aged and everyone really. But I think it is really observing what is it, like you can read something and then it's not probably entirely true on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Yeah,
and
yeah, wise enough to discern. Yeah,
yeah,
discern
yeah.
the true and the
You can
false.
choose whether you want to believe it or not.
Yeah, but then also maybe you have to have some life experience to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe we are wiser than we think.
I think intuition comes in as well.
Yeah,
Trusting your
yeah.
intuition.
Sometimes when I think of intuition as like it brings together the right particles of my past experiences in a certain moment when I'm able to wait long enough to be able to formulate direction or decision or like an answer, from my
Mm,
mind to be able to be born. Like, what is the right thing here to do? When I'm patient enough to wait for that,
yeah.
then
And
it's wisdom.
yeah, and also, and I know this from my own experience many, many times, is when my intuition's been off and I've made a decision, an informed decision, and it felt like it was right at the time, but actually made a mistake.
Yeah.
But on reflection, it's okay to make a mistake. And that's what I want to tell even the youngsters out there. It's okay, because you can learn from your mistakes. As long
Yeah.
as you're willing to, like, okay, that was the wrong decision. That's when you learn wisdom
Yeah.
in that.
Actually, I'm thinking the same, that wisdom is there when we are not the person that we think we should be at that moment, but maybe when we failed or when we are unmotivated in that certain moment, because that is maybe in a bigger picture a necessary step on the way, right?
Exactly. I think we're all on our own paths, and we can choose to look at ourselves and make changes and deliberately do what we want to do in the
Yeah.
right direction, or not. But I don't think there's any right or wrong. It's just you find your way,
Yeah.
as long as you're willing to own mistakes. And maybe not, I've been guilty of, like, still do, put myself down, judge myself, criticize myself, and then bad moods, made a mistake. But luckily I've got the tools. It can help me become more present with now, and then just move forward.
Yeah. You talk about the avatar tools, right? The
Yeah,
avatar
yeah, 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 yeah,
exercises.
yeah.
Yeah, because they help us to be more in present. And there is a message that we wanted to give tonight. It's night time, by the way, so it's like a little bit of like a night story, or
Yeah.
how we should call it. From it's a new book that you haven't introduced yet. It's called the um, Avatar Legacy, and it's about wisdom and all what we just talked about. The title of this chapter is Life is a Story. You have to keep moving forward with your life. There will be changes. We all go through them. Some changes we celebrate, and some we mourn. But this is the story of life.
Let me begin with a classic Indian folk story.
Two neighbors are talking, and one of them says to the other,
Your son is very lucky to own a fine white horse.
and the farmer replies,
You never know.
a few weeks later, the son's white horse jumps the fence and runs into the mountains. And the neighbor says to the farmer,
Your son, he lost such a fine white horse. He sure is unlucky.
and the farmer replies.
You never know.
A week later, the white horse returns with a beautiful chestnut mare. There are few pleasures greater than a happy reunion. Both horses settle into the field. The neighbor says,
Your son is a lucky man. He not only has his white horse back, but it brings him a mare.
and what does the farmer say?
You never know.
So the son is training the new mare, and the horse throws him. He breaks his leg. It is a bad break, and the doctor says,
You're going to be on crutches for a long time.
and the neighbor says,
Your son sure is unlucky. He broke his leg and now he's on crutches.
and what does the farmer say?
You never know.
Another week passes, and the general comes through the village, recruiting the young man to go and fight a war. Because the son is on crutches, the general spares him. And the neighbor says,
Your son is lucky to have a broken leg and to be spared from going into the army.
and what does the farmer say?
You never
You
know.
never know. When life brings you changes that seems difficult or frightening, remember what the farmer says.
You
You
never
never
know.
know. Yes.
Very cool. Okay. So that
Okay.
brings us to the end of our 6th episode. And
Yes.
we hope you all like listening. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Yes. Yes, we will, with more topics. And thank you if you listened or watched us. And we're looking forward to see you next time.
Bye.
Bye bye.